Nazi Germany, relentless and terrifying, has just invaded Denmark and Norway. The air is thick with tension, the world on the brink of a storm unlike any before. The Second World War is escalating, and the fates of nations hang in the balance. On the other side of the Atlantic, in a modest office building in Englewood, California, another storm is brewing. It's the early morning hours, and James Dutch Kindleberger, president of North American Aviation, is sitting at his desk. His phone rings. The voice on the other end is tight with urgency, almost desperate. It's a British liaison officer, speaking with a sense of foreboding. We need fighter planes now, not next year, not in 2 years. We need them in 120 days. Kindleberger is momentarily stunned. He knows what this means. Europe is spiraling into chaos, and the British Royal Air Force is losing aircraft faster than factories can produce them. Their planes are burning through the skies, one after another. In just 1 month, Adolf Hitler will turn his focus westward toward France and the Low Countries. But 120 days? That's impossible. No fighter plane is built in such a short time. Fighter prototypes typically take years to design, years of meticulous planning, testing, and refinement. The P-40 Warhawk had taken 30 months to develop. The P-38 Lightning, a masterpiece in its own right, took 4 years. But the British needed something faster. They needed a miracle. 120 days. The phone line crackles as Kindleberger's hand trembles. He sets the receiver down and stares at the wall, thoughts swirling. Can they really do this? Can they deliver a fully operational fighter plane that meets the British requirements, long range, high speed, heavily armed and combat ready, in just 4 months? He knows it's a daunting task, perhaps even impossible, but he can't ignore the gravity of the moment. The future of the war, and perhaps the fate of the world, may depend on it. He calls an emergency meeting. His engineering team, seasoned men who've weathered countless challenges, file into the conference room. Kindleberger lays out the request. The room falls silent. The men exchange glances, shaking their heads in disbelief. It's impossible, says one veteran engineer, his voice thick with skepticism. Physics doesn't work that way. You can't design a fighter plane in 120 days. It's absurd. The weight of their words presses down on him. They're right. It is impossible. But then, in the back of the room, a quiet voice rises above the rest. Edgar Schmued, an unassuming engineer with a German accent, stands. His colleagues don't know him well, but they do know one thing: he's different. A lone wolf in a sea of experienced engineers, he's always been a man of quiet confidence, the type who doesn't shy away from challenges. I can do it, Schmued says simply, his voice steady. The room goes silent. One man has just claimed he can do the impossible. Schmued was not like other engineers. He was a man ahead of his time, seeing the world through the lens of innovation and foresight. Born in 1899, in Hornbach, Germany, a small town in the Palatinate, Schmued's story began not with the roar of engines, but with the quiet hum of determination. During the First World War, while others cowered in fear, Schmued watched, fascinated, as biplanes sliced through the sky above the Western Front. It was then that his passion for aircraft was ignited. By age 16, Schmued had already started sketching his own designs in the margins of his school notebooks, drawing inspiration from the planes he saw battle above the trenches. His interest was not fleeting, it was a calling, a passion that would define his life. But the road ahead was not easy. He was largely self-taught, learning the art of mechanical engineering by working in engine shops and manufacturing plants throughout Germany. His formal training came later, but it was his relentless pursuit of knowledge, his ability to think outside the box, that set him apart. By 21, he was designing commercial aircraft for Daimler and Faller in Holland. Yet, despite his success, he couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was on the horizon. In 1925, Schmued made a bold decision. He left Germany behind. The country, still recovering from the Great War, didn't offer the opportunities he sought. He moved first to Brazil, then to the United States, seeking freedom and a future where his talents could flourish. By the 1930s, Schmued had become an American citizen and had joined North American Aviation in 1936 as a preliminary design engineer. It was here that his vision would truly begin to take shape. But while his colleagues worked on mundane projects, designing basic trainers for the Army Air Force, Schmued's mind was elsewhere. He knew war was coming. He knew America was unprepared. In his spare time, late into the evenings and on weekends, Schmued began working on a project of his own. A fighter plane. He wasn't asked to do it. No one had given him permission. But he couldn't ignore the urgency he felt in his gut. Every spare moment was spent refining his designs, sketching wing profiles that reduced drag, calculating fuselage shapes that minimized weight, and dreaming up systems that didn't yet exist. His colleagues thought he was wasting his time, obsessed with something that was irrelevant to a country not at war. But Schmued wasn't designing for the present. He was designing for the future. He studied every major fighter aircraft of the time, the British Spitfire, the German Messerschmitt Bf-109, the Japanese Zero, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses. He did what no one else had done. He learned from them. And in doing so, he created something better. Schmued knew that when war arrived, America would need the best fighter plane in the world. And by 1940, he was ready. April 10th, 1940. The world is watching as Hitler's forces sweep through Europe. The sound of war grows louder, and the British Royal Air Force finds itself on the edge of collapse. Their aircraft are being destroyed faster than factories can produce them, and soon the skies over Europe will be filled with the ominous roar of Nazi bombers and fighters. In Englewood, California, Edgar Schmued is about to face the greatest challenge of his life. His quiet office is filled with the tension of a man standing on the precipice of the impossible. The phone call he received from British liaison officer James Kindleberger now feels like a haunting echo in his mind. 120 days to design a fighter plane. His colleagues are still reeling from the absurdity of the request. In the meeting room, seasoned engineers exchange skeptical looks. They're trapped in their own knowledge of what's possible and what isn't. No fighter has ever been built in 120 days. It's simply not done. It takes years to design a functional fighter aircraft, months of testing, refining, testing again. But Edgar Schmued isn't like the others. He stands tall, his eyes burning with a quiet determination. In a room filled with doubt, he's the only one who believes that what is impossible to everyone else is simply a challenge to be conquered. I can do it. His voice is calm, unwavering. The room falls silent. There's no cheering, no applause, just stunned disbelief. Some of the engineers can barely look him in the eye. They know what they've just heard, and they know it isn't possible. It would take months just to design the wing, another year to test the stresses and the aerodynamic principles. But Schmued isn't waiting for approval. He knows the stakes. The British need these planes now. The war is already a brutal reality. They don't have time for debate. If this is to be done, it's up to him. The rest of the team may be skeptical, but Schmued has an advantage. He has already spent years designing fighter planes in his spare time. He studied the best and learned from their failures. He knows the right materials, the right shapes, the right approach. He has a head start, a treasure trove of knowledge and design sketches that no one else in that room can match. Schmued is about to begin the impossible. He draws from his notebook sketches of wings that reduce drag, designs that streamline the aircraft to survive the harshest conditions. He doesn't waste time explaining why it's possible. He just gets to work. And the clock keeps ticking. The task seems insurmountable. Every day, every hour, feels like a battle against an invisible enemy. Time. 120 days is not just a deadline, it's a ticking bomb. And for Edgar Schmued, the pressure is relentless. His team works in shifts, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. The factory is a whirlwind of activity, chaos mixed with determination. No computers, no CAD software, just pencils, drafting tables, and slide rules. Each engineer must calculate every measurement by hand. Every mistake could mean scrapping an entire day's work. Schmued moves between the groups like a commander leading troops into battle. His mind races with calculations, his thoughts weaving together years of experience, years of preparation. He checks every drawing, questions every decision, and demands that his team find simpler, lighter, more efficient solutions. As the days pass, the design begins to take shape. But this is not a simple task. Schmued is not designing a conventional fighter plane. He's designing a revolutionary one that will be unlike anything anyone has ever seen. Every part must be perfect. The wings, the fuselage, the engine. All of it must come together flawlessly, or the whole project will fall apart. One of the key challenges is the wing, a new design, something Schmued has been refining for years. He calls it a laminar-flow wing. It's risky, untested, and some engineers call it impossible. The theory is solid, a wing that minimizes drag by allowing air to flow smoothly over the surface. It sounds like science fiction, but Schmued believes in it. The stakes couldn't be higher. Schmued's reputation is on the line. But more than that, the fate of an entire nation might depend on the success of this design. Day after day, Schmued works tirelessly with his team, pushing them to meet the impossible deadline. They're all living on coffee and sandwiches, working late into the night, their bodies and minds pushed to the brink of exhaustion. Schmued himself sleeps on a cot. In his office, getting only 4 hours of sleep a night. His colleagues can barely recognize him anymore. His face gaunt, his eyes bloodshot, his body running on sheer willpower. But the work is paying off. Slowly, piece by piece, the Mustang begins to take shape. The laminar-flow wing is more than just a triumph of engineering, it's a symbol of Schmued's vision. The wings, once a dream in his notebooks, are now a reality. The rivets are flawless, the curves are perfect, and when the team finishes assembling the first panels and conducts the airflow analysis, the results are undeniable. The drag is reduced dramatically, and the Mustang's speed and efficiency will be unlike anything seen before. But this is just the beginning. The aircraft must be fast, but it also needs to be light enough to maneuver, strong enough to survive combat, and simple enough to mass produce. Every decision Schmued makes brings him closer to the impossible goal, but each one comes with its own challenges. The fuselage is designed with semi-monocoque construction, an innovative technique where the skin of the aircraft bears the weight of the structure itself, eliminating the need for heavy internal frames. It's lighter, stronger, and more efficient. The team works on the engine, the landing gear, the cooling system. Every component is pushed to the limit. And just when it seems like they've hit a wall, Schmued is there, solving problems on the spot, sketching out solutions, making decisions in minutes that would take most engineers days. His mind is a machine, calculating, analyzing and solving problems in real time. The factory is a battleground. Workers labor under extreme pressure. One mistake, one small miscalculation could derail everything. But Schmued doesn't hesitate. He's already seen the end result in his mind's eye. He knows what needs to be done. And he drives his team forward every hour, every minute, closer to the goal. The floor is a scene of controlled chaos. The clock is ticking, and the deadline looms closer with each passing day. Edgar Schmued can feel the weight of the world on his shoulders, but despite the exhaustion, despite the mounting pressure, he holds on to one thing: belief. After months of sleepless nights and tireless effort, the first prototype of the P-51 Mustang is finally ready. On September 9, 1940, just 117 days after the British request, 3 days ahead of schedule, the prototype is rolled out of the North American Aviation Factory. It sits on the tarmac, gleaming under the California sun, its polished aluminum reflecting the light like a bird of prey waiting to take flight. It's unlike anything the world has ever seen. Sleek, fast, deadly. It looks ready to tear through the skies, just as Schmued envisioned. But there's one more test. The test pilot, Vance Breese, walks around the aircraft slowly, his hand trailing across the fuselage. He studies the smooth curves, the precise engineering. It's perfect. But will it fly? The engines roar to life as Breese climbs into the cockpit. The sound of the Allison V-1710 engine fills the air, a 1,200 horsepower beast that shakes the ground beneath their feet. The Mustang is alive. Breese taxis down the runway and the aircraft accelerates with surprising smoothness. At 85 miles per hour, the Mustang lifts off the ground. For a moment, time seems to stand still. The aircraft glides into the sky as if it has always belonged there. The wings cut through the air with ease. the laminar-flow wing reducing drag in a way that Schmued's team could only dream of. Brice pushes the throttle forward. The Mustang climbs higher, faster. It reaches 382 miles per hour at 13,000 feet, a speed unmatched by any American fighter to date. The numbers are more than just impressive, they are historic. In just 117 days, the impossible has become reality. But this is only the beginning. The Mustang isn't just a prototype anymore, it's a game-changer. It's the aircraft that will shift the balance of power in the skies over Europe. As Brice soars through the sky, the engineers, the workers, and Edgar Schmued himself stand on the tarmac, watching. Their creation is finally in the air, alive and unstoppable. They've done the impossible. They've created a fighter aircraft in less than 4 months. Early 1942, when the P-51 Mustang, now a proven prototype, enters active service with the Royal Air Force. The aircraft is fast, agile, and deadly, a marked improvement over anything the British had flown before. Its sleek lines, designed by Edgar Schmued, make it the best fighter in the sky. Below 15,000 feet, it outperforms everything. Faster than Spitfires, more maneuverable than Hurricanes, and with twice the range of either. The Mustang quickly becomes the RAF's favorite, and soon the American 8th Air Force adopts it as well. But for all its successes, there's a problem, a fatal flaw. The Allison engine, while brilliant at low altitude, falters at the higher altitudes where the air war is being fought. At 20,000 feet, where American bombers are desperately trying to survive against the Luftwaffe, the Mustang is not as effective. It's good, but it's not great, and that's a problem. The American bomber crews are dying. Without a fighter that can escort them deep into Nazi Germany, they are slaughtered in the skies. The P-47 Thunderbolt, another American fighter, can only fly partway. When it turns back at the German border, the Luftwaffe pounces, decimating the bombers in a matter of hours. Massive losses. Something must change. In April 1942, a Rolls-Royce test pilot, Ronald Harker, is flying the Mustang over an RAF base. He's impressed by the aircraft's performance, but frustrated by the limitations of the Allison engine. After the flight, Harker writes a memo to his superiors. The solution is simple. Replace the Allison engine with the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. The Merlin, an engine designed for high-altitude performance, will allow the Mustang to reach new heights, literally. This suggestion reaches Edgar Schmued. The engine swap might seem simple, but the reality is more complicated. Schmued pulls out his old calculations, studies the Mustang's design, and discovers that the airframe was built with enough structural margin to accommodate the Merlin. The engine mounts can be adapted, the cooling system redesigned, and the aircraft can be ready for combat at high altitudes. Schmued's team sets to work. They go back to the drafting tables, modifying the engine installation, recalculating the fuel system, and reconfiguring the cooling ducts. The result is transformational. The Mustang X, a test aircraft fitted with the Merlin engine, takes its first flight in October 1942. The numbers are staggering. The Mustang with the new engine can now fly over 1,600 miles with drop tanks, giving it the ability to escort bombers deep into enemy territory, to Berlin and back. No other fighter can do that. By spring 1944, the P-51 Mustang is entering mass production. In California and Texas, entire factories are dedicated to pumping out the Mustangs by the hundreds. The 8th Air Force, based in England, transitions its fighter groups to the Mustang, and suddenly everything changes. Now, American bombers have escorts that can protect them all the way to their targets. The P-51 Mustang becomes the most deadly fighter in the sky. The Luftwaffe, once supreme, is now in retreat. The statistics are grim for the German Air Force. In the first half of 1944, P-51 Mustangs claimed over 1,500 Luftwaffe aircraft shot down. By the end of the war, the Mustang pilots will have destroyed nearly 5,000 enemy aircraft in air combat. An additional 4,100 will be destroyed on the ground. The Mustang is not just an escort fighter, it is a hunter, strafing enemy airfields, convoys, and even parked aircraft. The Luftwaffe pilots, once the terror of the skies, now find themselves hunted. The American P-51 pilots, veterans of countless missions, have taken control of the air. The skies over Berlin, Vienna, and Munich, once thought to be safe, are now a battleground. As the war progresses, the Mustang's reputation grows. It plays a pivotal role in the D-Day invasion on June 6, 1944, where the Luftwaffe is nearly destroyed. The numbers speak for themselves. The Mustang has not only changed the course of the war, it has become the deadliest American fighter in history.